Greetings, people's Top Cat Jimmy, and thank you for tuning into my channel. This is the series, Mastering Your Own Tracks and or Mixes, to or not to? That is the question. Alright, so this is going to be power-packed with a lot of goodies. So let's get on with this. We got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time. Thank you. Okay, people, well, here I have my Reaper DAW opened, and this is my song starting from scratch, and as you can see, I have the tracks in here, okay? And also, these tracks are not mixed, alrighty? They're panned at center. They're at 0 volume, each and every one of these, alright? Tracks are on the faders. The master track is at 0, no effects on the master track. No effects on any of the other tracks whatsoever. Okay, so this would represent the unmixed tracks. Alright? So now, when you go to record your tracks, we got sample rate, we got bit depth, we got buffer size, okay? And so, sample rate, 44.1 kilohertz and 16 bit depth is CD quality. Then you got people that will record in 4800 kilohertz and at 24 or 32 bit depth, all right, and even more and higher. All right, let's get back to that in a moment. But as far as buffer size, here's an example. Here's what I'm talking about right here. Here's my TASCAM US 4x4 mixer board, although my interface is sitting right here on my desk. You'll notice this is sample rate and then buffer size. This here, okay, has buffer sizes that are by default right there like that. Okay, I keep mine at about 256. So what happens is if you have latency or lag, in other words, the time it takes for your signal to get from your source to your DAW, out your DAW, into your monitors and back out, okay, and there is no lag or no latency, all right, that has to do with buffer size as well. You get what I'm saying? But in recording for 44.1 or 4800, okay, or whatever, and then the bit depth. Regardless, okay, when a person records in their choice of sample rate and bit depth in 44.1 and then 16 bit depth or 2432 bit depth, and I can show you that too, okay, over here. I'll go to render. I'm not going to render anything, but I want to show you that, you know, you can choose your bit depth right in here. Now you see your sample rate again, right? 44.1, 4800 or whatever, and then your bit depth 16, 24, 32. What I'm trying to say here is that whatever you render it in, that your other software and or hardware, such as I got a TASCAM DP24 and I'm going to be showing you some things in that too, okay, is that whatever you render it in, your other software and hardware that you want to also use it in and share it with also must have that same capability, and they both have to be set on the same, okay, exact thing equally for them to read each other. You follow what I'm saying? And so I could take these out of here. I could take these tracks, export them. Whatever I export them in, I got to make sure that my TASCAM DP24 or my other DAW also is capable of doing that same reading, all right, and writing, and then be able to read, okay, so I can bring them in or import those into my other DAWs or my TASCAM DP24, which means if I export in 44.1 and 16 bit depth, I also have to have that capability on my DAWs and my TASCAM, which I do. All right, so let's see, just want to make sure you knew that or touch on that. Also, the buffer size has to do with not only latency and lag. They say that if you got hiss or white noise in your signal or your system, that if you set your buffer size up higher, that will possibly cancel out or help eliminate the white noise and or hiss. Okay, which brings me to rule number 1 of recording: capture it clean to begin with. Let it be clean, no hiss, no white noise, no hum. if you have a hum and you're using, let's say, a guitar or whatever, and you got the hum is the 60 cycle hum. So on your equalizing, and your EQ, let's bring up an effect. I'll show you EQ real quick here. Okay, I'll give you an example here, right here. Okay, so you see this right here? This says 50 hertz right there. Watch this, guys. All right, so that's 50 hertz. So your 60 hertz is going to be about right there. All right, somewhere right about in there. Yeah, see 57.9. It's just about right there. Okay, that hum is going to be most likely a 60 cycle hum, and one way of getting rid of it is just move that over that 60 cycle somewhere in there. Okay, and to make sure that we got it covered, you're definitely going to want to make sure that that notch is wide enough. Okay, so you can also move it over here through this. Obviously, you can bandwidth. You might want to make it wider. Okay, so here's what you want to do. You can actually slide it over here, and you can see 60, about somewhere in 60. You want to make sure that that's going to cover actually the width of that, and that's what they call a notch. So you can notch it out in the EQ. So also I have two electro harmonics hum debugger foot pedals, foot switches. All right, I've got two of them. Now I only need one. I bought two for me, and say if I have another guitarist or I want to hook something else up and not disconnect the one. You see what I'm saying? So I just bought an extra one, in other words. And what I do is I use it and it cancels out the hum. It is phenomenal. Check it out if you want. It's $125. Okay, at least it was when I purchased it a little while back. Check them out. And also, I believe they have hardware that you can hook up and connect to your system at your workstation desk. All right, to eliminate hum, and not to mention that also DAWS makes some foot pedals for noise cancellation, okay, etc. Look into all those things, okay? We got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time. So there you go. On that note, I record at about minus 12 decibels, alrighty? And what I do when I record, I will just record a sample. I will see what it's registering on the fader. I will finally get that and adjust it to minus 12 decibels. I will keep my fader on the track that I'm recording into at 0. I do not touch that. I want to record initially, okay, at the volume level of where it's playing and then recorded as minus 12 decibels with my fader still on 0. I do that for each and every one of my tracks. All right. Now that way I'm not recording too low, because if you record too low and try to bring it up later, you're also going to bring up the noise floor with it. That's going to be a problem. All right. If you record it too high, there's going to be clipping. When you record it at the right level to begin with, which I suggest minus 12 decibels, then you leave what they call headroom to add your, now we'll get back into the mixing part, okay, where you add your two required dynamics, EQ and compression, all right, on each track individually. That's part of the mixing process. All right, now this has to do with plugins. I'm going to talk about that. But EQ and compression are the two effects that you would want to use in each and every one of your tracks, okay? Also, I would suggest reverb on each track. Now, when I record, it's by default, it records stereo. But I mix in mono, which means I take those tracks once they're recorded and I export them as mono and then bring in the mono track and get rid of the stereo track for each and every track, okay? Then when adding the effects such as EQ, compression, so I add the EQ, the compression, and then the reverb. So now let's recap, EQ, compression, reverb. But the two that I mentioned, EQ and compression required, reverb highly advised. Now that must be done in each and every track while mixing. Also, what else needs to be done in the mixing? Of course, editing the tracks. Okay, we may want to use some automation. We're going to definitely pan these, okay? So if you're sitting in front of a band, they're panned, okay? They're in different positions and coming from a different direction. That's panning, the panoramic view, got it? And so then what else? You got DAWS. I use Reaper DAW. I use Mixcraft 7. I use Magic's Music Maker 2016. And I also use Audacity software for something I'm going to show you, the invaluable use that you can get out of Audacity in your final product, okay? So bear with me on that. Now in each and every one of those DAWs, you're going to find their stock plugins, and not all stock plugins are created equally. Some are okay, some are good, some are better, and then you've got your custom plugins such as, I would suggest, Ozone Isotope and or Waves, okay? And so next of all, on the stock plugins, they vary from DAW to DAW, all right? I'm going to show you the plugins on these DAWs that I mentioned and show you the sound quality of them besides. All right, let's go ahead, and I want to show you now from an unmixed version to a version, okay? And let's go ahead and do this. Now I want to show you, this is also going to allow me to show you about file management. I have this right here is my external hard drive, okay? So I've got most of my stuff therefore out of my computer because I mix and master from my external hard drive. I do not mix and master from my computer. In other words, my files for my songs are not in my main computer. They're in my external hard drive. So that means that since my files are there, that's where I'm mixing from and mastering from, and therefore it puts less, okay, strain on the CPU usage of the computer. And I have only a 6 gigabyte of RAM computer, though there's a terabyte of memory in there. It's 6 gigabyte of RAM, random access memory, which is our processing power, our engine for our computer to carry the load. Well, I took the load off of it by taking everything out and put it in my external hard drive. Now, I also have a Furman power conditioner to protect my electronics. I have videos up about that. Check that out. Now, anyway, in my external hard drive, this is about file management. If you want to get a Full Sail University, go check them out online. They are a dedicated audio engineering school as well as movie producing and everything. But if you want to go get an audio production certificate even, let alone a bachelor's degree, which some have gotten, now they're working with the celebrities, okay? But to get an audio production certificate from them, I am looking into obtaining, all right? It's a 5-month course with 5 courses in there that each take a month, and they also come with college credits, a total of 18 college credits with it besides. And one of those 5, I'll say 2 of those 5, one is DAWS, but the other one is file and session management. This is very important. It is about organizing things, organization, orderliness. Now, as you'll notice that I have, once again, in here, I have Top K Jimmy Studios department. Then in there, I have folders for each and every one of my DAWs. Then in every one of those things, I have subfolders in those, okay? So this is my vault. Now, this right here is what you see right here on this DAW. That is this file. All right, now the projects file is right here. This is the mixed rendition right here, people. Okay, watch this. Voila, there you go. Notice there's nothing in the mastering section because this part has only to do with the mixing part as of now. It will have to do with the mastering here real soon. Watch this. So here I've got my EQ, my compression, and my reverb in each and every track. All right, so there's the effects. Now, Did I use delay or anything like that? Yes, I did. But yes, in my drum tracks, I added a bit of delay in the end, okay? And the pre-final mixing process, because I do not want it through the whole track, all right? And also my electric guitar, I've got a delay foot switch that I used. It was on the whole time I played my electric guitar, okay, part for this song, okay? So that's the other thing. I can take these tracks and I can actually export them, okay, in mono, bring them over to my other DAWs and look at them, set them, mix them in that, export that track back in here and replace this original track with that, okay, improved track. You follow what I'm saying? And I've done that too. Now, other than that, there is no other effect in here, okay? But these are the three, okay? Well, these two are the essentials, EQ and compression on each and every track, and then reverb, I would highly suggest and advise. We also have, all right, to make sure that when we're mixing, that part of this is having all of these tracks now playing at the same time and of course sounding right in their pan positions, but also at their proper volumes of how you want what to stand out when and where. Okay, your automation will also possibly help you and assist you to do that. Yet we got to make sure also, right, that now notice one thing here. You're going to see something. You're going to see, alrighty, these levels right here. You see here where it says minus 1.36 and this is minus 3.68, minus 2.80, and so on and so on and etc. That's because of what I've just mentioned to you. The other thing is that when it's playing, alright, what's it going to look like here? Well, first of all, make sure it's not clipping in the red over here, because if it's in the red, it's clipping. And also make sure it's not clipping on the master fader when they're all playing together. So individually make sure they're not clipping, and all together when you're playing them, make sure they're not clipping in the master track. Okay, so one way to do this, of course, is solo it and make sure everything's cool. You can solo that. This is the other drums here, left and right, you know. All right, so the other thing is that while doing all this, you can solo one at a time, okay? So you can solo more than one at a time. You can play them all and then say mute one, so you know you don't hear that. And so let's see here, and say you want to hear them all, except you don't want to hear these two, then you can hear all those without having to just solo all of them, okay? So that's another thing. So the other thing is that the object of this is for the mixing engineer is to do his best to where this is not hitting the red up in here on the master fader when all these tracks are playing combined besides, okay? That's going to help him know whether these tracks are ready or not to send to the mastering engineer. So let's do this right here and see what happens. You can see the readout right in there. Okay, so what I noticed in here, it reads out as under 0. Okay, I think that that's going to be acceptable. Now, the thing of it is, okay, we've got to also, once again, the same way that we record at minus 12 decibels, and then we have to add all these effects in here, because each time we add another effect into this track, those decibels increase the volume of that track. Now, imagine that times 9, all right? And then imagine that times, say, also, or 24, or whatever amount of tracks you're going to be using. And that's why when you record at minus 12 decibels that you have what they call headroom, so that you can add these other necessary effects especially, and then because it will increase the volume per each track, then times as many tracks as you got, all right? It increases the overall decibels and volume in the end run, okay, for the mixing engineer. Now, so the mixing engineer wants to make sure that this is ready to be sent to the mastering engineer. And so here's the thing. what do I think about minus 0.6? I put it this way, if it's anywhere between 0 and minus 3, right? Because you have 0, but you also have over 0. So anything over 0, I would definitely do my best to avoid, because from there on, you're going to run into clipping, okay? So at 0, I think that's acceptable, and then only as low as minus 3. Now, you also got to consider that when you're sending your mixed, okay, file, and that's the other thing, that the mixing engineer is going to want to render this total master project into a stereo wave file to send it to the master engineer. But remember, he's got to leave headroom in that file, that mixed file, for the mastering engineer to now add his effects, which are going to be EQ and compression, and probably some reverb, and probably some stereo imaging, and possibly a limiter. Okay, so remember, every time we add another effect, it increases the decibels. All right, so I would say that at minus 0 is good, and minus 3 is good, but no less than that. Yes, I would leave it at that, to go ahead and send that to the mastering engineer, okay, to add his effects on there. And then, yes, he may run into some clipping, but I'm going to show you, that can be corrected within the mastering process to some degree, and then still you're going to keep it at a minimal, even in the mastered project, okay, so that when you bring it to your audio cleaning sound lab after mastering that, which means now the mastering engineer takes that stereo wave file, puts all the effects on it he's going to put on there, which are the ones I mentioned, and then he's going to re-render that wave file into another stereo file, but this time not a stereo wave file like the mixing engineer did. The mastering engineer is going to render it into a stereo MP3 file. And once doing that, I can show you, okay, what I do after I master my mixes, that how I send it to, now I import it into another software that I've made my audio cleaning sound lab, and it will detect clipping, and I can easily, with some adjustments and some clicks of the buttons, just like that, eliminate the clipping and make it radio worthy ready. No problem. All right, so let's see what's next. Well, let's get to that, okay? There's two ways you can go about this, but we're going to take the long way around first. And what we're going to talk about is this is what the mixing engineer would do, okay? And now the mixing engineer has got to finish his work. It's not quite done yet. And then he's going to take this finished product and send it to the mastering engineer, all right? And then the mastering engineer is going to do his job. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the long way around, okay? And I'm going to show you exactly how that's done. Okay, the two different roles, but you may be playing both of those roles. And now look, if you want to take the long way around, send it back to yourself like that, be my guest. I did that just to see what it would be like. Okay, so yeah, I would suggest trying it. Okay, get that feel, man. But at the same time, I'm going to show you that shortcut. All right, so you don't have to take the long way around. Okay, you don't have to if you don't want to. And I would say that this is the preferred route. If I'm the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer, the preferred route is that shortcut, and I'll show you that. Okay, so you might be looking at my tracks going, why is that acoustic guitar rhythm track so big? It's only because I have it expanded. Okay, so the way you can expand these, you see what I'm saying? Here's an example. I have this open because I want to show you some things on automation. So here in Reaper, automating, I'm talking about I think what is the essence of automation, okay, in this case. And to me, that would be adjusting the volume, okay? As the track plays that you already have recorded, I'm going to show you something about this. So we want to click on volume, make sure that these two are clicked as well. and also hit latch. All right, now once we do that, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you. Now you see how this track comes up? Now watch what happens. We're just dealing with the volume, nothing else. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this for you here and show you an example of what I mean. Okay. All right, so there you go. As I moved the fader, that lowered and raised the volume of the acoustic guitar track without affecting the actual acoustic guitar track. Okay? So now watch what happens. Have you ever seen those faders move up and down on their own and you're wondering, how did they make that do that? Well, watch this. Let's go back right here, and I want you to keep your eye. You can watch that fader and also fader number 4. Watch those faders right here, okay? Hands free. Is that cool or what? That's automation. Let's now, I'm just going to get rid of this here. All right, we're going to now want to go ahead and mix this down into that, all right, stereo wave file, right? So let's go ahead and make sure everything is basically the same. Everything looks good, but make sure the master track is panned at center and it's at 0 and no effects on it. Okay. Now we've got everything in order. Our effects on here, our pans are correct. All our edits have already been made way prior to this. Okay. And all these tracks are solid and clean. All right, no cuts in them or nothing. Okay, so now I know that everything's in order. So now I want to, in Reaper, I want to go to render. And so since I'm the mixing engineer, now sending this to the mastering engineer, I want to render this in stereo, of course. Okay, I'm going to render it at 44.1 at 16 bits. Okay, and let's see, I'm going to do the master mix already because that's what we want, is that. And then I've got to choose my destination where I'm going to send it, but I'm going to call it starting from scratch. Now I already have all this done. Okay, I've already got my mixed and my mastered song and whatnot. So this here, I'm just using it as illustration purposes for this tutorial, though I'm not going to end up keeping these results because I already have mine done, and file management has to do with not adding any confusion to it. So yes, these will be gone, okay, as soon as this tutorial is over, but I'm going to send these to my desktop so there's no confusion. Okay, and of course I want to get my spelling right, so here we are starting from scratch, and we want to go to the desktop, and voila, here we are. And we're going to say 1 tutorial because I'm going to be doing more than one of these. And here we go, rendering. Now watch this, and it is in stereo. Make sure it's in stereo. We haven't rendered it yet. We've just set our destination. Make sure every one of these specifications are exactly right. All right, and that it is in stereo and that it's in wave. All right, because we're sending this to the mastering engineer in wave form and a stereo file at that. There it is. It's being sent. Now, this is the long way around, okay? So let's continue. All right. I'm sure it's there on my desktop. There it is. Okay, very good. Now, here's what the mastering engineer will do. All right. So we're going to start a new project because we are, it's already saved, I ain't worried about that. We are now the mastering engineer. So now we just got a note saying, you've got mail. All right. And so we check and we look and we've got this stereo WAV file. Or the mixing engineer comes from the other room and knocks on the door and says, hey, Chief, I've got the, stereo WAV file. It's mixed. Here, it's done. Ready for you to master, sir. And so the mastering engineer will take that and say, great. All right. He'll import it into his DAW of choice, let's say. And we've got a new project starting already. We want to add a media file. So now, okay, so let's just say this is, somewhere where he can access this easily in a flash drive or however they do it, maybe in the cloud, who knows. Okay, but let's go to where we know that this particular track is at or file is at. Okay, so voila, and there we have it. All right, so we might want to add a little color to it, which is fine, and we're going to color it blue, I think. How about that? We'll color it, say a light blue. Okay, don't necessarily have to be a pastel, but I don't want it too dark either. I think that would be good, and that's close enough. All right, so now the mastering engineer is going to take that, and now you go, wait a minute, you've got two tracks. You've got the master track and you've got the file track. So what's what here? All right, so the bottom line is, I'm going to tell you right now in Reaper, I've already tested this, that do not put, once you put your EQ, your compression, your reverbs, whatever effects, okay, you go, well, where do I put them? Do I put them in the master track here or in this WAV file track here? You put them in one or the other. That's the thing. And you can put them in the master track, okay, and then render this, or you can put the effects in this track here of the waveform track and not the master track, therefore, and render it and come up with the same results that you did as if when you added the effects only in the master track but not in the waveform track. Okay, either way you do it, do one or the other and you will have the same exact results. The one thing you do not want to do, and I found this out by testing it, okay, because I had that question about Reaper myself, all right, was do not want to put those effects in here and then the same effects or any other effects in here, or vice versa. You do not want to put effects in here and then also add them in here. You want them in one or the other, but not both. Now I prefer, since being the mastering engineer, and that says master, okay, right there, and that's the master fader, then I'm going to add, okay, my effects in there. So I'm just going to do this real quick for, okay, illustration. We're going to want EQ. We're going to want compression. And we're going to want reverb. All right, so let's find reverb. Let's see here. It's here. I know it is. Okay. And then, first of all, EQ and compression, I would say are required. Reverb is a definite, highly advised. I would add it. Okay. And then some people say stereo imager, but they don't really have a stereo imager here. And they do in Magic's Music Maker 2016, and that's what I wanted to show you. All right. Let's see. As a matter of fact, this Vandal is from Magic's. That's a VST. But anyway, stereo imager, right? So let's put stereo so I can find it out of all these choices. And no, it's not an imager. It's a stereo image filter, but we're going to do that anyway. And now we're going to look for a limiter. All right, so this is the master. So this is the mastering engineer working on the master track, and so we're going to bring up the master limiter. All right, now what would happen? Okay, the mastering engineer is going to go through all these things, man, and he's going to do this. Okay, now do everything that he needs to do. You follow what I'm saying? Okay, he's going to bring some mids up, let's say, and bring the highs down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You could add bands or whatnot, and you could put this here. Matter of fact, it says 4 and that's 5. Let's bring this over here, bring that down a little bit, and now you can come up with this song. You know, you could add bands along the way, etc. Then you're going to want to add your compression. You got your threshold, your ratio, your makeup gain. This one has auto makeup. I use it, limit the output. Okay, I mark that box, okay, on my compressors if there is one available. Let's say we're using a 3-to-1 ratio, okay, and voila, now we got that set. Okay, anything else you need to look up, like I would suggest studying a little bit about attack, release, and knee size. You can find that online. It's pretty simple to grasp, I think. But threshold, ratio, and gain, all right, those are definitely the 3 we're going to want to look at. And so let's say we've dealt with our compression, we want some reverb. Okay, we take a look at that. Of course, we're listening to the song as we master it. So I guess maybe I'll just go ahead and do that. All right, and see what happens. All right, sounded good so far. All right, so all right. So bear with me. You know, I'm the mastering engineer. I'm doing this for illustration, but I'm going through this. I'm listening to the song, but I don't have all these on at the same time. I have only one on at a time, and I'm dealing with all of these individual assignments and knobs and settings, okay? And so let's say it sounds great there. Now I want to take that off, and now I want to deal with it with only now compression, let's say, okay? Now I'm going to be looking at the compressors. I do that, making any adjustments to the knobs. Next, you know, and so on, and keep on doing that. It's the same way each and every step of the way. But of course, let's uncheck that box and bring this up. Now we're listening to the song again. Okay, I made my adjustments, let's say. Oops, let's bring that back up again. And so now I'm bringing up the master limiter, and so let's go ahead and check it on, because that activates it or bypass it. And now let's go ahead. You see what I'm saying? All right, so there you go. I'm talking about the essentials. I think are EQ, compression, and reverb. And stereo imaging would be great. All right, so now let's say I've got all those set where I want them set. And now, okay, wow, you know what? This is wonderful. Okay, now guess what? Wow, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so now you want to make sure that it's panned at center. And I would say leave it at 0, man. Okay, now let's just double check it here for sure. Yes. All right, you know what? I'm not happy with that. Let's just double check that, because in real life, I would be going, no, that needs to come up on the volume. But I don't want to adjust the master fader to do it. I think that looks great. It's about -3 decibels, and that's about perfect. So you know what I'm going to do, though? I'm going to do this on purpose. All right? As a matter of fact, I'm going to render this with this, okay, at this degree, which seems like there's no clipping, and then I'm going to turn up the volume on one of those, say the compressor, where I know I'm getting clipping, and I'm going to render that again, and I want to bring it into my audio cleaning sound lab and show you what I'm talking about as far as clipping, if there is any, and how to get rid of it. And also that will lead us into the tagging, and also, all right, we're getting close to being done with this video, right? This is really good, man. This tells me that we're just about there in the finished product. So let's check it out. Let's go ahead and render this. Now, how are we going to do this? I will say that it's going to give us choices I would say the master mix and stems, just to be sure. It's going to be in one file. Okay, we could put it in MP3 because that's what the mastering engineer would do. You follow what I'm saying? He would or she would render it in MP3. All right, now I can do that right now. Just a click of a button. All right, and it's got to be stereo. Make sure it's stereo. But for the sake of this tutorial, I want to show you some illustrations here. So I am going to use Wave. I'm going to render it. I'm going to go, oh, how do we want to name this? Because we already got, remember, the mixed Wave stereo file on the desktop that we've imported. I'm going to send this to the desktop. I got to name it different in a way. So how about starting in caps? We're going to put it in caps, starting from scratch, only in the beginning word and this word right here. Starting from scratch, and we're going to name it Master 1 Wave, okay? So there's no confusion, because we're also going to have a Master 2 Wave, and what we want is to make sure, because one I'm going to deliberately put out there that's got some clipping in it. So let's go ahead and make sure all these things are in order. 44.1, 16-bit depth, waveform stereo, waveform stereo, stereo, stereo. Okay. Now let's go ahead and send it to the desktop once again, and voila. And here we go. That looks pretty good, right? Now it's on my desktop, as you can see. We've got a couple there, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and one more time do this. And notice what happened? Everything was fine. Even though I was raising these here, as long as I had my limit output box checked, watch. See, that's still at minus 3.4. Watch. All right, now it's clipping. It's in the red. See that? So, okay, we're going to leave it at that, and I'm going to re-render it just for illustration purposes, right? But notice something, as long as that check mark, as long as that box is check marked, limit the output, so look for those boxes, okay? And whatever else it might, whatever other format it might be in. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to rename that as 2, okay? We have to know the difference, and we're actually going to put on purpose clipped, okay? Alrighty, it's clipped. And so we're going to go ahead and render it. It's the same on every detail. And I think we are ready to go. Yes. All right, let's do that. Wow, look how much bigger that is. Definitely, it even says plus 4.2. Check this out. That's okay. I'm sure it's on the desktop. And now we're going to go ahead and get out of this right here. Let me close this. And I'm going to open up the Audacity, all right? And I'm going to show you how to get rid of clipping. We're going to convert this into an MP3. We're going to tag it with digital information as to the credit, okay, of who's performing it, the name of the track, the name of the album, etc., even with a photo, all right? And then also, I want to show you, okay, another free software that you can also tag it in that if you need to. So this is going to be done. It's going to be a stereo file. It's going to be an MP3. There's going to be no clipping at all whatsoever. It's going to be radio worthy, ready. We're going to have it tagged. We're going to have tagged with the photo besides the information. Then we're going to, of course, take it, and now it's going to be a certain file size. So I'm going to show you how to get a lesser file size and lose no quality on it at all whatsoever. So that if you're uploading it, say, to Reverb Nation, that anything 8 megabytes or more, you got to pay them for premium membership to get that up there. But I'm going to show you how to take something and like an 8 megabyte song, okay, and bring it down to 6 megabytes with this piece of software I'll show you here. Okay, folks, well, that turned out to be about a 53-minute video, and that could not be helped. That's the end of this part of this video. And the next video, I will follow through and show you the remaining parts that I was mentioning of my audio sound cleaning lab. Also, the shortcut version from mixing to mastering, from sending to the mixing engineer to the mastering engineer, providing you are the same person, the one and the same, that you're playing both of those roles, all right? And then that will be in the next video, okay, those things. And because that video will be a bit lengthy, then I will also have another video covering the rest of the ground that I had mentioned at the beginning of this video, which will be showing you the stock plugins in Mixcraft 7, Magic's Music Maker 2016, those DAWS. Also, those tracks I just showed you in my TASCAM DP24, and just give you the brief run through. I want to give you the visual, all right, of what it looks like across the tracks for each EQ for each track. Just give you a real quick view of that, okay? And not going to go into any EQing or anything necessarily at all. Just want to show you how that is done and what that looks like, and then also do the mix down for you only as an example for this tutorial. Okay, then after the mix down is done, then bring it into the mastering phase here in the Tascam and showing you it's got a global EQ, global compression, a couple other things, etc. And then how the mastering phase, or the master down, if I could say, like mix down, the master down, or mastering of that, how that is done, what that looks like. And also that this Tascam DP24 has a CD burner in it, and how you can take and burn that now mastered file onto your CD, and you can finalize it if that's the only song you want on your CD, or once it's burnt onto the CD, how to not finalize the CD so that you could actually add more mastered songs on that particular CD, which is usually about 80 minutes long. And then you can make yourself a whole album, you know, or at least say an LP with 6 songs on there, or how many songs that would cover 80 minutes. Alrighty, so I want to show you that. Also want to show you the MIDI sync, okay, on the Mixcraft 7, because I'm going to be showing you the MIDI sync on the Tascam DP24. Okay, is this or is this not a control surface? Alright, and also that if you do not wish to mix your own tracks, and perhaps you do not wish to master your own mixes, I want to recommend a place for you to look into online, and you can start from there. And they have a number of options of recording studios at this source, which is a very good recording source, record production website, that you can go to that website and from there look for mixing and mastering engineers. Some have been nominated for Grammys and some have won Grammys, okay? And so it's a very affordable, it seems to me, And so I want to show you all these things. I initially started out thinking this was going to be no more than a 4-video series. Then I realized, no, this is going to be a 5-video series. So these videos, I believe, are very informative. And of course the videos cover about the fact of, is that should we or should we not mix our own tracks, and also should we or should we not master our own mixes, and the encouragement of, yes, go ahead and mix your own tracks and go ahead and master your own mixes. Not should as dogma, but should as an encouragement to grow and to enhance our own selves in our music and in our music endeavors and in our music journey. To be, as what I like Mr. David Willis from ProAudioDVDs.com says, be a lifelong learner. So yes, absolutely. Once you learn one thing, go on to learn another and add to what you've learned, and especially in the same field of each other. And so this video series, therefore, are the demonstration that you can do it. You can mix your own tracks. You're capable. You can master your own mixes. And my YouTube channel is about you can do it. My YouTube channel is about 2 things: creating original songs, and then also you can mix and you can master your own music. And yes, keeping it simple and going with the basics, and the basics are absolutely the fundamental parts of everything that we do, okay? And the other things past the basics are what I will call the icing on top, all right? But with the basics, and even with, say, free software or inexpensive software and stock plugins, but with our effort and our applying ourselves, we can get good, if not great, results. And something for you to be proud of in your work and in your endeavors. Okay, well, this is Top Cat Jimmy. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Thank you for viewing these videos. I say God bless you, sayonara, adios, and we'll see you again the next time.